They dared a single dad to sleep with boss. She said, I'm tired of waiting. What took you so long? Marcus Chen stood in the break room, staring at his reflection in the microwave door, wondering how his life had become the subject of office gossip and ridiculous dares. His coworkers thought they were being funny, nudging him toward their boss with winks and whispered challenges. They had no idea that every time he looked at Elena Rodriguez, his heart did something complicated that had nothing to do with their stupid bet and everything to do with the way she remembered his daughter's favorite color. The fluorescent lights hummed above him as he clutched his reheated spaghetti, the same meal he'd packed for the third day in a row because grocery shopping with a 6-year-old meant the cart filled with fruit snacks instead of actual food. Marcus was 32, exhausted, and doing his best to be both mother and father to Sophie after his ex-wife had decided motherhood wasn't her calling. 2 years had passed since Jennifer left, and he'd built a life from the rubble, one filled with princess movies, parent-teacher conferences he attended alone, and the constant weight of never being quite enough. They're idiots, you know. Elena's voice startled him from behind. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, wearing that navy blazer she always wore on Tuesdays and an expression that was half amusement, half something he couldn't quite read. I heard them in the conference room yesterday. $20 says you won't ask her out by Friday. Real mature. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck. I'm sorry. I told them to stop. I didn't. You didn't what? Didn't think your boss might have ears. She smiled, but there was a vulnerability in her eyes that caught him off guard. Elena was always composed, always 3 steps ahead of everyone in the room. Seeing her uncertain made her suddenly, devastatingly human. I would never disrespect you like that, Marcus said quietly. Whatever they think this is, it's not that for me. Elena studied him for a long moment, and he noticed the coffee stain on her cuff, the exhaustion she hid behind perfectly applied makeup. She was 35, divorced, and according to office whispers, married to her job because a relationship had burned her badly 3 years ago. Marcus had learned not to believe office whispers, though. He'd learned to look for the truth in smaller moments, like how she always approved his leave requests for Sophie's school events without question, or how she'd once stayed 2 hours late to help him fix a presentation when his laptop crashed. What is it then? She asked. For you. The question hung between them like a dare of a different kind. The fluorescent lights flickered. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang unanswered. Marcus thought about Sophie asking him last week why he was always alone, whether he was sad, and how he'd lied and said he was happy as long as he had her. He thought about waking up every morning to an empty bed and an emptier future, about building walls so high that even kindness looked like strategy. It's terrifying, he admitted. Because you're brilliant and intimidating, and you remember that Sophie likes purple even though I only mentioned it once. Because when you approved my leave for her dance recital, you wrote, break a leg, Sophie, in the notes, and she still has that printed out on her bedroom wall. Because I'm a single dad who makes spaghetti 3 nights a week and can barely keep my life together, and you're tired of waiting, Elena interrupted. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. I'm so tired of waiting, Marcus. Do you know how long I've been hoping you'd see me as more than just your boss? How many times I've revised the break room schedule to match yours? How hard it's been to maintain professional distance when all I want is to know if you take your coffee black because you like it or because you're too rushed in the mornings to add cream. Marcus stared at her, his world tilting. You, what? She laughed, and it sounded like relief and fear tangled together. I'm a mess, Marcus. I work 60-hour weeks because going home to an empty apartment reminds me I failed at marriage. I pretend I have it all together, but I eat cereal for dinner and sometimes I cry in my car before I drive home. I know you think I'm out of your league, but the truth is, I see you being an amazing father, showing up exhausted but still giving everything to your daughter, treating everyone with kindness even when you're drowning, and I think you're the most incredible man I've ever met. The microwave beeped. Neither of them moved. They dared me, Marcus said, his voice rough. $20. And I wanted to punch every one of them because reducing you to a bet felt like the cruelest thing in the world. Because you're not a conquest or a challenge. You're the person who makes me believe I could be more than just surviving. Elena stepped closer. What took you so long? Fear, he whispered. Fear that I'd mess it up. That I'd bring my chaos into your life and you'd realize I'm just a guy who doesn't know what he's doing half the time. That Sophie and I would be too much. Marcus. She reached out, her hand hovering near his face before finally touching his cheek. I bought a purple scarf last week because it made me think of Sophie. I've rehearsed conversations with you in my head at 3 in the morning. I rearranged the holiday party seating chart 4 times to put us at the same table. If you think you're chaos, then I've been orbiting that chaos for months, hoping you'd let me in. Something broke open in Marcus's chest, something that had been locked tight since Jennifer left, since he'd decided that being a good father meant sacrificing everything else. But here was Elena, seeing all his broken pieces and calling them beautiful. Here was a woman who didn't need him to be perfect, just honest. I don't want to do this because of a dare, he said. Then don't. Elena smiled, and it transformed her face into something radiant. Do it because you want to. Do it because life's too short to keep waiting for the perfect moment. Do it because sometimes the bravest thing is letting someone see you, really see you, and trusting they won't turn away. Marcus set down his spaghetti container. His hands were shaking. Elena Rodriguez, would you have dinner with me and Sophie this Friday? Fair warning, she'll ask you 1,000 questions, we'll probably eat chicken nuggets, and I can't promise anything fancy. Chicken nuggets sound perfect. Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. And Marcus, I can't wait to meet her properly. I've been hoping you'd introduce us for so long. They stood there in the break room, 2 people who'd been circling each other for months, finally brave enough to take the leap. Outside, the office hummed with its usual chaos. Inside this small space, everything felt possible. Later, when Marcus told his coworkers there'd be no bet to collect because he and Elena were going to dinner, the office erupted in cheers and groans about lost money. But he didn't care about their reactions anymore. He cared about the text Elena sent that evening. Sophie texted me that purple's also her favorite color for bosses. I think I'm going to love Friday. He cared about his daughter's squeal when he told her Elena was coming to dinner, and how Sophie immediately started planning what to wear. He cared about the possibility of mornings that weren't quite so lonely, of building something real with someone who saw his struggles and chose him anyway. Marcus had spent 2 years believing he had to be everything alone. But maybe, just maybe, there was room in his carefully constructed life for someone who'd been waiting patiently in the margins, hoping he'd notice her there. Someone who understood that love wasn't about perfection, but about showing up honestly, mess and all, and trusting another person to do the same. The dare had been cruel, but the truth it uncovered was beautiful. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop waiting and start living.